Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. You're like such a fucking Taurus and it's such a vibe. I love like every time I talk to you or see you, it's like lazy lizard vibes. The background's always so beautiful. And it like cracks me up because as you know, or maybe you don't remember, my Venus is in Taurus. So it's very much of like the way I love, the way I receive love. And it's so
Hmm.
funny to me because it's like half the women in FMM the last round were Taurian, which I was highly
Yes.
I was like, of course, in the receiving container.
Hmm. Yeah, it feels good.
Feels good. So I'm sorry, ladies, also for being late. I was getting my little peppy situated. And I'm really honored to have Chloe Lind. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
With us today, she is one of the beautiful women who's been working with me and within the sisterhood inside of Feminine Magic and Money since the first round launched in April. And I invited her here to share her story because, very similar to the other women, Chloe just had this like really beautiful, almost kind of like seamless. I know it didn't always feel seamless, but like, but from, like it felt very fluid considering like the state that you kind of came to me in up level inside the container. So both like in her business and how that's got to go and is going and like creating that miracle money without doing anything, which is one of my vibes. And also like within your new relationship, which I think is so beautiful, and just like being able to drop into that deeper level of intimacy with your partner and stop overthinking. And I know this is kind of like the first relationship you've ever had like this. So that's like really huge and can take some like, you know what I mean? It's not always our natural instinct to just be able to drop in that way. And then, you talked to me before you joined about feeling like you just really been living in this kind of like masculine paradigm, masculine way of doing things, being, work, everywhere, and you're just over it. And you had like quit your job, clean slate, you joined the right container. And I was like, this is amazing because you're going to be so open. Um, and then the other area was, oh, I remember too, because I know you've been around like a number of like very intuitive women and felt a little like, like, so appreciative of other people's gifts, but feeling a little like, is this for me? Do I even have this? And so obviously I know that everyone does, and we just get it in different ways. So it's been really powerful for me to watch you like step into like your intuitive gifts and actually start getting downloads and have that fully activated after feeling like, oh, like that's for these other chicks, but not for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
So anyway, that's what I'm excited about. And if you want to introduce yourself and just like your background, where you were before, kind of like not even, you don't have to get into all the things of magic and money, but just like where you are in your life now. And so everyone can get to know you. That would be amazing.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for the intro. Gosh, it's like where do you start? But I think like you said, I had worked in sort of the corporate tech startup enterprise level organization world for many, many years. Um, and I knew I had known for quite a few years. I think I'd always known I actually wanted to go do my own thing. Um, and it was just kind of coming to a head where I knew I needed to take that jump. And I think there was a lot of things that had sort of just transpired over the past few years that have kind of led me to this kind of point where you just you make a decision, right? Like, what do you want your life to look like? And really taking accountable for how you are creating your life, right? Whether it's the good or the bad, like really acknowledging that like you're part of that decision and taking responsibility and accountability for like what you're engaging in. And I think I got to the point where I was ready to like just totally reset and take responsibility. And not like I was doing anything crazy, but it's just like I think we tell ourselves stories, right? It's like how we navigate our life, from whether it's something from childhood or um, so if we absorb in our environment, I think we're so stuck in our stories about how life is and how our situation is. And I think I definitely had stories about myself, like, oh, you can't do this, or you can't, this isn't possible. I was just so stuck in like that narrative. And I think
And
I
you had
finally,
worked, just to make sure, so
yeah,
you'd worked like since school, like corporate route all the way through, done. Is that
yeah,
your route? Okay.
for the most part, I had a little bit of a stint where I was actually working in design. Um, and then like I had a family emergency and kind of totally left New York and left that situation. Um, and ultimately went back to the sort of corporate world that I had left before design. So I had this like weird stint. And I think what I learned in that too was like I think I've always been like a creative, business minded person. And I went in like a really creative environment. I was working at a architecture and design firm doing like really cool hospitality projects. But I was also like working till 3 in the morning and at like 30. And I was just like, I mean, at any age, I'm not an advocate for that unless you're really enjoying it. But I think I got to this point where I was just like, this isn't life. Like life is too short. And what do I want my life to look like? So I think the past few years has just been like rethinking everything, really like resetting like my health, like the environment I wanted to be in. And I feel like I've just been like quietly planning for all of this for a long time. And so then when I hit this fall and I knew I was going to leave my job, and I think you put out this mastermind, I was like, this is exactly the support I needed making this transition. I knew I was going to make this and I wanted to be like supported in that. And I wanted it to be easy and fun and not driven by fear. And so I think I, I just, I didn't really want to take a gamble, if that makes sense. Like I knew what was possible and I wanted all the support in helping to get there. Um, I think there is, and I know you talk about this too, there's like so much narrative around like, oh, you're starting a business, you're an entrepreneur, it's going to be tough, you're not going to make money the first X amount of years. Like there's all of this like negativity around it. And I was just like, cool, that's not what I'm looking to do here. And I know I would benefit
Woman
from
of
having
my heart.
support. I was just like, no, thank you. Like, no, it's just like it's like it's crazy to me that like that is, I mean, not to say that you can't be successful and start there, like that's fine. But why the hell would I want to do that? Like, why would I want to go into it with that mindset? Like,
Hey, this is
and
my whole message. I'm like, why so much of this industry is built on everyone's struggle story? And like, I get it. And I have a background as well. But
mhm,
I'm like, that doesn't mean that you need to struggle. Like, most of the time by this point in our life, we've been through enough. I'm like, let's just opt out of that story for being in our businesses and being in our life from this point forward. I'm totally with you. And I'm not a huge fan of all this marketing that just like so anchors into like, people using the amount of struggle they've been through is almost like I don't know. It's like this weird, not a pat on, it's like, so I get to be here now. I'm like, why does it have to be so bad first?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I understand, right? And I have like a traumatic past in
mhm,
certain
mhm,
areas as well. And I'm totally happy to talk about it. But what I think mistakenly gets picked up by people in business is that it has to be hard first. Whereas like my
mhm,
business is an area where I actually don't have a struggle story because I was pretty good to go from the
mhm,
other ones. And I'm
yeah.
like, you don't have to do that. You get to like opt out. And I really just like commend you for realizing that early of just like, I'm actually just unavailable for this to be a grind and for this to be complicated.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like with anything, if it's going to be hard, then it's going to be hard, right?
Yeah.
Like that you'll create that reality for yourself to prove yourself right, right?
Oh, yeah.
So no, that wasn't, I was just like, no. Like I was like, I'm 35, like I'm not
Hey,
gonna
me
mess
too. I'm
around.
actually no, I'm 38. I love how I said me too, and I don't even know how old I am.
Right? It's just like, but and it like it doesn't even matter. Like I would say the same thing if you're 22, but it's just like I've been around long enough to know that like anything really is possible. And I know it sounds like so cheesy. And I think it like maybe at some point I would even cringe at myself saying that.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm saying when I say that is like you we all play a part, and obviously there's some extenuating circumstances, but like we all play a part in whatever reality we're living. And whether you acknowledge it or not, like we're all part of the dynamics of the relationships we engage in, the work we're in. And it's like, I think, yeah, people outsource their power. We're like, oh, it's this situation, I can't change this, I can't change that. And it's like, it's it's because of that the world way works in the way it does, but like it doesn't need to, right? So yeah, I think that's been a big sort of shift for me, is just like just playing around with things and just saying, well, what if it just all worked out perfectly? Because I think I've gotten to a point where, and I learned this in my professional life, like there's moments of stress, right, where something goes wrong, or like something happens with a client or an account or whatever, right, like something goes wrong, and it's so easy to just get into this like total like nerve-wracking headspace of just stress. But if you look back in your life, you've had so many of those situations and we're still here, right? We're still here. So it's like, it's a choice to either like sink into that fear, or be like, you know what? I've been through things like this before and I'm still here. It'll probably turn out fine. You know what I mean? Like that's been a big thing for me. It's just like, I'm still here. Things are still going. Like whatever happens, it'll be
What do you
fine.
mean lately? Okay, I want to not.
No, not lately, but
Oh,
like
okay. You mean
that's been a shift for me of like I could be in this place of fear, or like things aren't going to work out. And I'm not saying like we look at past to determine the future, but I think if it is available, you can just look at your own life and say, hey, like there's been so many moments where I've doubted myself, but I'm still here and I still like am navigating, I'm still alive. Like that is just proof that like we are resilient people that will get through anything. Does that make sense?
Totally. I just wanted to like help everyone follow your timeline of like, are you saying you feel this way now, or is this how you're feeling months ago? Because I
I
kind of
think,
wanted to go ahead.
yeah, I think for me, that was sort of how I would often come up in the past when I came up against something that felt tough in work or relationships. It could always feel like, oh my God, this is like, just be so like your nervous system just goes totally out of whack. And you're in this like fight or flight, stressful headspace. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that can be really easy to get into. And I think so part of this container has been about like sinking into like a place of love versus fear, and seeing how that fits into your nervous system, and
Mm-hmm.
just trusting yourself. And so when I trust myself, I can look back on my life and say, hey, I might have felt a little wobbly before and I'm still here, right? And I'm still
Totally.
making moves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I mean, because so much of what we focus on too is just being able to navigate life, period, with more grace and ease.
Yeah.
And then like allowing ourselves to like work with our emotions more powerfully, obviously bring in the magic, obviously bring in the interactivation or energetic
Mm-hmm.
activations and everything to get things going faster, and release everything that doesn't serve so that it can actually feel more easy. So we're not just telling
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, I'm going to operate with more ease. It actually feels easier.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so what kind of place did you feel like you were in, just to help everyone like follow your
Mm-hmm.
timeline? Now I understand what you're saying. Like when you joined and what drew you to the container? Because I mentioned earlier kind of like what you mentioned when you came to me, and you
Yeah.
felt to me just very open, and like what you said, you're like, I just don't want this to be hard. I'm kind of in a clean slate position.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just, and you mentioned like having kind of operated your life from this masculine place previously to great success, but it wears out. It doesn't last. It's not a vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Even if you didn't hate your job or whatever, it's just like
yeah.
a certain way of living that like it doesn't feel nourishing at a certain point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I definitely worked in a really male dominated environment. I worked in tech, and oftentimes I was like the only female in a
Uh,
big room, right? Like that was normal. Um, and even though like I worked with great people and for great companies and everything, it was very clear like there's a way, there's all this unwritten code, right? And maybe I was playing into that to some extent, but like you have to kind of play the game to be successful in some
yeah.
of these places. And I got really good at it, right? But it did often feel like I would say I was authentic, but yeah, to your point, it felt draining, it felt exhausting. I was I felt like I can be kind of a chameleon, and I certainly was in those spaces. And yeah, it's exhausting. And I think we're taught that's kind of the way to, like, that's just the way it is, you know, like that's, you have to kind of play the game to be successful, and there's no other way. Like that is the safe path, right? So that was really prominent going into it. And I would say one of the biggest things coming out of that is just like you bring in all of these experts. And I think for me, it was like a lot of that stuff, like some more than others, like I was very like aware of a lot of the concepts they teach about. But I think I kind of like became aware on a deeper level, and it's made me reflect. And I think there's still so much work I can do. But like, for example, as it relates to your question, just even thinking about the way we live our lives as men versus males, or women versus female, and men versus women. Oh my God. Where like, it was very much like all of the like books where, and like everything just like biohacks, life hacks, wake up at 2 a.m. and like, you know, all of that stuff. And like do yoga, run 20 miles, then like have a special cup of coffee, and then like be at the meeting by 8. And I was always just like, no, thank you. Like that's
Me
never
too.
resonated with me. So I think this group gave me the permission to be like, that's okay. And in fact, like moving away from that can give you bigger results. And I think that was a permission that I needed, and an expansion I needed by being surrounded by other people that were also like, oh, okay, we can do this, and supporting each other. I think for me, that was really big. And again, it's like, it's sometimes these subtle shifts where it's like, okay, like maybe I knew about this, but to like actually give the time and space to talk about it and feel it and integrate it was big, was
Well,
huge.
there's an enormous difference between intellectualizing information and embodying it.
Mhm.
And that's the
Exactly.
difference between like the rubber meeting the road or not. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We have a way of intellectualizing a lot in this culture, and especially in this space. And this is why I'm so passionate about actually doing all the work that we do in FMM, because it allows, you don't need to think about it anymore, because it's just who you become. And then there's nothing to think about it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You're just
Hmm.
living it now. And that's the whole point.
Hmm.
And that's what's
Yeah.
interesting for most people.
Yeah. And I think it's like a really a practice of like coming home to yourself, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Um, which is interesting, because I think we're so like so often taught not to listen to ourselves. So
Everyone else always knows better. Yeah, this is how we've been
right.
raised. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
So
that's
what
been huge.
so in your work, I think the most powerful kind of example of what you're talking about, because you know how like, you know, there was a why where you just wanted to chill, right? You were receiving your
Hmm.
relationship, you were
Hmm.
just taking that breathing space after coming off your full-time job. Obviously, we were doing
Hmm.
what we were doing. And I remember when you joined, because you were like, okay, I'm investing in this, and then I'm also going to do this like business container that's more like strategy kind of stuff. And I was like, all
Hmm.
right, cool.
Yeah.
And then really quickly, you were like, Jocelyn, I hate this other thing. Do I have to do those things to be successful? Like, do I have to like hardcore
Yeah.
niche and do this? And I'm like, babe, no, like, I don't do any of that stuff. It's just like, no, it's not required. And it was kind of funny because it was almost like this older version of you and this you that we're stepping into had like come into my space at the same time. So like the older part of you made a move over there towards like this masculine way. And the new part of you made this move kind of like more in my direction. And then you were kind of like trying to hold them both at the same time. And you were kind of like getting different messages from both. And ultimately you kind of just stepped away from the part that didn't feel good. That was like the shoulds and the have tos and the very super fucking typical, really masculine business coaching that makes me want to barf. For me, it works. For other people, I can't do it, as you know.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying no, there's no strategy in the business. Like, obviously, you guys have heard me talk about this. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But like this very like specific road to Rome is like bullshit, honestly. And if it doesn't feel good, it's just not a vibe. So that was really interesting to me. So you kind of just like decided to like throw it away, and you just sort of like just started like following your flow. And I think one of the most like without like all this pushing and drama and whatever. And I think that and like really leading. Remember we talked about like, because you're very creative, I am too. And so I really resonate with that part of you that's just like, oh, even if just something's beautiful, or like I'm going to book a photo shoot, maybe I'm going to like play around with my colors and fonts. If something's beautiful, I'm more excited to put it into the world and I don't even need to know what it is. And it was funny because you wound up before, like well before you're ready to launch your business, you booked a photo shoot. And it really reminded me of myself because way before I started my business, I booked a photo shoot and had no idea why. And then later, those are like my first photos when I launched my business. So, but what I love is like you literally called in before you even launched, before you said a word. Now the brand's out in the world. Is it Hanol? Is that how I pronounce it?
Panel, yeah,
Hanol
yeah.
Studio. You guys can check it out and I'll put a link. But before that, you literally called in like 12K in sales and you hadn't done anything yet. And I love this. Like, obviously, money's a vibe, but this is so much of the energy I always talk about, like, even with myself, right? Like, oh, when I go on vacation, make money, ooh, or I'm just out shopping, or like I turn off social media or what, I'm just living, right? And this is what I always say is available. And you have this like direct example of the felt experience. So I'd love for you to share about that because this is the kind of magic that I'm always saying, like we get to have. And this is the result of like deeply embodying and stepping into your feminine energy, almost in a way that I think to you, when you started with me, felt kind of like mysterious and just like, whatever, I'm going to like, I somehow feel called to this container. So I'm just going to like take the ride and see what happens.
Yeah. So I think that sort of at whole like period of time, which I'm still sort of in, was definitely this exercise in like letting go of like perfection and planning, and again in a very masculine way, right? Where there's like these order of operations, right? And so I knew I needed to get new photos, right? My headshots were like, I don't know, 5 years old at the time. So I booked a shoot, and yeah, it was funny because I had a vision, right, for all of this, right? And I didn't know the specifics. And again, in like human design, I'm like non-specific manifester. And so like I had like these kernels of ideas, right? And I was responding to certain things and I kind of knew how I wanted things to look. And I started to just like trust that and like trust these kernels that would come up and just go with it and not question it to the degree or like look for justification or validation on any of that, and just kind of go with it and like see what happens. And it turned out really well, and like that totally like led into the art direction for my site and like everything else. And it just happened super organically. I think in the past I would have like probably like driven myself crazy trying to like figure everything out and like plan things out. And to be honest, I actually have done that for my business in the past. Before I quit, I like planned all this stuff out. And then it's like, it becomes like you get so lost in what you're trying to figure out that you're incapable of figuring out at that time because you're not even there yet, if that makes sense, right?
Totally.
So I think for me,
I don't even bother. I'm so flowy. I don't do to-do lists. I don't plan. I don't do, I wake up and I'm like, what's happening today? Like I know it sounds crazy, but I am extremely fluid also.
And I think it's like a good point, because I think in this really masculine world, like I've never been someone, and I worked with clients for a long time, managed a lot of projects. I was never somebody that like loved the admin or the to-do list or any of that. I hated it, but like I always remember like what I needed to know, right? Or I would like get the support where I needed it. Like it was never like my life was in a disaster, or like I didn't know what was going on. It was just like I had a really strong gut. I knew when I had to do something. I knew like I could remember things. And so I think there is a little bit of like, oh, like you're not organized, or like there is some like negative connotation around like not maybe being some of those things.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it was just like, hey, like let's just try not planning anything out and like literally tuning into what my gut was saying for me. And like and like I think that's something that's like come up in like bits and pieces over the years, but I've never like really fully honored it, because there's always this other side of the brain that's like, wait, there's a smart thing to do is this, right? So I think for me it was this like beautiful exercise and just sort of letting go of that and just like trusting my intuition and seeing where that led me, and like making it fun, if that makes sense, like
Of
almost a
course.
game, you know,
So
versus
then
like
what
a race.
happens? Because the clients start
Yeah,
freaking out before you've done anything, meaning like you
yeah,
hadn't like announced yourself to the world.
correct. Yeah. Yeah. And so a few clients, actually two, came to me, and it's funny because I remember last summer I had a couple people come to me as well. And in that point I was like dealing with other stuff, and I did take some work on, but it was like really like I was still working full time. I really couldn't like dedicate my time to it. So when I think these things started coming in before I even launched my business, they came in like last month. It was like, for me, it was such like a sign that like everything, like it's all available to me, because if this is happening and I'm not even, yeah, I'm taking aligned action towards my desire, but I was not promoting myself in any way. If that can come in, like, the possibilities are endless. Does that make sense? Like it was just
Totally.
validation in that way.
And I loved it because you had some fear around basically calling in your prior salary. And I was like, babe, well, for you, that's only like X amount a month. It's not that big of a deal. Like this is doable. And then you
Yeah.
basically called in X amount.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Meaning like you wanted to be close to like, I know you want a
Mhm.
little more, but for you in your first month to call in
Yeah.
12K in sales and you weren't doing anything, that's fucking huge.
Yeah.
And also, it's just such a testament to what I always talk about. And you just had enough time in the container and enough support. Like, even though we weren't even doing business stuff, it didn't
Right.
matter,
Right.
because this is where like the energy is just so real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so then how does it feel now just being able to like flow into your business? I guarantee you there's people doing way more than you, making themselves crazy, not receiving the money, which is not
Yeah.
the energy to be in.
Yeah. I think, and even I was able to sort of just apply the same principles to my other container, the more like business minded container I'm in.
Yeah.
Um, and like I was able to kind of like, I think this is what was coming up for me then, is like I want to be like the perfect person in each of these like cohorts, or like I want to be successfictory, like this like really
I
old
want to be the
programming.
top student. Yeah.
Yeah, like that old stuff was coming in. Not that I was like ever taught like valedictorian, but like, yeah, I was always like did well, right? Like I would never want to
Totally.
get in trouble in that way, right? And so I think a lot of that stuff was coming up for me of like, I'm the person that's like not showing up to these calls or whatever, right? And so I was like focusing more on that versus what I needed from it. And so I think I was able to make that switch. And now like I'm able to like take what works for me from that container and like end that container actually in a really good place and have great support there as I need it, as it works for me, versus driving myself crazy trying to like I think it was just like I kind of reset my desires and like aligned with what I wanted versus like, this like old thing about like wanting to be, whatever in the class. And you know what? It turned out like it's all turning out fine. I think that's the other thing. It's like it's all turning out fine. No one's mad at me. I didn't get in trouble. I'm doing well. Like it's all good, right?
And this is also, you learn to follow feminine wisdom. Feminine wisdom doesn't mean you have to like totally reject one thing or another. It's just like,
Right.
oh, it's like you're cherry picking. You're like, I like this, 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 and this. And I like that, 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 and that. And then like I get to make it however I want. Thank you.
And I don't need to create a story about it either, right? Like that's not helpful,
No.
you know?
Stop
So
it.
yeah, that was big for me.
Okay, so beautiful. So then you called in your 12K, fucking vibes, and we're only going to be expanding from here. And then another area too that I think is really powerful. Well, there's three that I mentioned, but that you were like, you'd been in containers with other like very psychic women, spiritual women, etc. And while some people are kind of that way or have been like working on that a lot, I feel like you kind of represent the normal woman. Do you know what I mean? Who's just like,
Yeah,
I
for
don't know,
sure.
I've not been fucking hearing voices since I was 5. Like, that's really cool. And I honor that, but like it can feel a little intimidating, right? And like honestly, I didn't either. I didn't have my psychic awakening until like I was like 29. But regardless, I feel like this was this area where you sort of felt like Like it just wasn't possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would always talk about like how the gifts show up differently for everyone. And also we're on the planet for different reasons. So some people just have these certain areas more turned on than others. But regardless, we all have access to intuition. We all have access to feminine wisdom. And I was so excited when I can't remember like exactly at what point, but you'd woken up in the middle of the night and were receiving channeled messages about your business. And I was like, fuck yes, because it's such a natural byproduct of all the work that we do to get more like psychically turned on in the way that is like an aligned for us. And it also just builds this like enormous amount of self-trust to know that lives within you so that you aren't constantly like outsourcing your power, which is like part of the whole point, is this deeper level of self-sovereignty.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's interesting because I think I had like always gotten those hits. Again, I just never really honored them or understood them. And I think it goes back to like being in the masculine or just like this other way of thinking
But we
where
all
you're
get them. We just can't
right.
hear, or it's like it gets
We're not,
really murky and confusing.
and we're not like honoring them or like trusting them. And
Yeah.
so, and I think in retrospect, I'd like obviously always got them and then like dismissed them, right? Like I'm just, and I think so for this, I think this was like a great exercise for me in just like trusting that like I was going to get the information and messages were going to come through me in a way that like I didn't always have to like understand or control, but I could trust, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think, I in the middle of the night, like just like woke up and like all these great ideas came to me and I like started typing um and so I think again where I think like maybe in a more masculine way of thinking is you're like, I'm gonna sit down and write 5 things about this or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
there's this force to do things in a certain timeline. And like me, my core literally rejects that. I feel confined, I feel constricted, it does not feel good in my body. So I think switching from like, instead of forcing myself to do this, and especially my business, I'm going to trust that like when things come to me, they will come to me and I'll get into that flow state. And I think that's a big thing where like, again, going back to schedules and cycles and how like we operate as women, I am somebody that like, sometimes we'll need to like sleep for whatever, like an hour, like take a nap, and then I'll like work till 12 o'clock or 12 a.m. Like I'll get into these flow states. And I think, there can be a way of like, maybe in the past I would have like judged that or been like, that's not sustainable or what. But now I'm just like, does this feel good in my body? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Does it feel aligned? Like go with it, because then you're not forcing things and it's just like trusting that that information is going to come to you and you're going to get what you need to get done and like everything's going to work. Does that make sense? I know it's a
Yeah,
little
I mean,
like,
this is just tangible examples of this vibe of ease, or like the frequency
yeah,
of the easy river that I always talk about. This is
yeah,
exactly how I am.
yeah,
I mean, like, I'm just like, what do I feel like? I mean, sometimes, yeah, are there days where it's like, oh, okay, I got to get all those things done if I
yeah,
want this? Yeah,
yeah,
but like, those are not most days. And the
yeah,
longer I'm in the business, it's just like there's fewer and fewer of them. Also, because there's just way more foundation. But it's like, if you want to live an easy life, it actually has to be led with ease, right? It's like we say we want an easy
absolutely.
life, and everything we're doing is communicating that we want it to be hard. Like that doesn't add up, right?
Right.
You
Yeah.
do like the things that we've been doing inside the container and have the support and have the reflections back, rather than having to like choose your mental overthinking versus your intuition and play ping pong with yourself. You just align so much more deeply in the inside that back and forth just kind of goes away. And I think like that's what I talk about when I say this is a receiving container, not a doing container. It's like you all of a sudden just find yourself transformed. You don't really have to like think about it. Things just
Mm-hmm.
change,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah,
And to your
absolutely.
point, a lot of it is like stepping just really deeply into things we already knew because it's always in there, but we like continue to ignore, or
Mm-hmm.
we don't actually know how to like embody and step into. So it just feels like this like theoretical idea that we believe in, but we're not living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't need to be hard. And I also think if you're in that headspace, if that's how you're if that's your energy, it's also not particularly inspiring or magnetic, or like things
Well, it's not
things
magnetic at all.
right, things are going to be harder to like make happen if that's the energy you're bringing to the table.
100%.
Super simple.
And then there was also your relationship, which was like transpiring during this time. And you were already, you got, I think you were just,
Yeah, I mean,
you
it was
just
like,
met when you joined. Where were you when you joined?
yeah, I think I was like a few weeks into the relationship.
Okay, so it was very new. And I
Super
know
new,
that was like
yeah.
a big manifestation for you. And
Hmm.
something that was like really amazing to witness too, because you had just talked about like your past and relationships there, was like to move out of the like overthinking energy. You know how we'll get in, and especially if we haven't been in a relationship in a long time or one that actually has emotional space, it's very easy to start panicking and overthinking and be like, is this the one? Is this not the one? Did I do the right thing? Like, blah, and like start spinning out in circles trying to like get control again.
Hmm.
And I remember you kind of starting to go there, and we were like, okay, we are not thinking, we are feeling, like back off of it.
Yeah,
And like
absolutely.
ultimately you landed in this like really beautiful place with this person that you guys are like talking about spending the rest of your lives together with. And that's been really beautiful to watch too, because so many people focus, like kind of obsessed on receiving on getting the relationship. But I'm like, but the magic happens when you're in the relationship, right? And so
Hmm.
everything that we do, like it applies to money, it applies to love, it applies everywhere. So again, like way
Hmm.
of life things. So I'd love to hear like how being in the container also has impacted your experience in your relationship, because it's now, I mean,
Hmm.
obviously this was like clearly your person too, but like we can have our person and make it a shit show and have to do a lot of repair work, or we can have our person and also like have it be like flowy and vibey.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this relationship is I think I knew that like when I met the person that was like probably more in alignment for me, it would require me to really look in the mirror and it would kick some stuff up, because I think
Always, yeah.
I just knew that like, you can work on yourself, you can go through stuff, heal stuff, but I think like people trigger it, right? Situations trigger it or
You
activate.
never know. This is the thing with love. When women want to like hold out and only date the one, I'm like, babe, you don't know anything that's going on with you until you actually like start deeply engaging with other people. You have
Mhm.
no idea.
Mhm.
And then even like you're saying, when you get in a relationship, is going to be another level of intimacy. So another level of things to look at, which is like
Mhm.
such a beautiful gift. It doesn't mean that it needs to be torturous either.
Yeah,
It
it's
can
like a
also,
humbling experience, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, you asked for this. It's right in front of you. And now it's like really calibrating to that level, right? Of
of like
like
intimacy and
that
vulnerability and
intimacy,
openness.
that vulnerability, that like frequency. Um and I am with someone that is very evolved and has done a lot of self work for like far longer than I have in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And has dealt with trauma and like healed and like is an incredibly inspiring person. And so had I think it was just really humbling because I was dealing with somebody that had like was very emotionally mature. And I think maybe in certain other relationships, I was maybe the one maybe carrying that a
I
little
know
bit
sometimes
more.
we almost don't know what to do when they're a little more
Yes.
in certain situations. You're like, oh, I don't know. I don't like this.
Right. Cause like someone's just gonna call you on your shit and you're gonna have to look in the mirror and deal with it. And so that was like really it was really interesting. It was a new experience for me. And I think it just allowed us to grow because we've made space for each other. Um, and I think being in this container was just like such a good like reminder when things would come up to just um I think just like have a level of ease and softness in all of it, and like this more like flowing energy. And I think um that was huge for me. And I think that receiving piece was huge because um I was always someone that was like very like, okay, I think this is kind of a big one and people might resonate with this. I was always like, I was kind of raised to be like, okay, you don't need a man, like you're strong, you're independent,
Oh
like you
no.
can't love someone until you love yourself, yada yada yada. Which I
Oh,
think like, if I came from like a mother who like went in the opposite, like was in the opposite, right? So she like overcompensated by going this other direction. And in a lot of ways, like it made me successful, like career-wise and all these other ways, but it made it really hard to like receive and like be more soft and like really like sink into my feminine. And so this relationship was like such an amazing opportunity to actually do that. And that was the stuff that we were going through within the container. And so it was like, I mean, it sounds so simple, Jocelyn, but like even like letting someone do things for me, right? Like
I know.
literally just like not like over orchestrating, over engineering, or like doing, and like literally receiving, just like letting the person like carry things, set things up, like whatever it is, like it literally doesn't matter. It was just like I could just tell my nervous system it was an adjustment. And now I'm like, great, run the bathroom. Like, let's do it.
Yeah, literally,
Like,
like, run my bath, darling. I love it.
like he's done that many a times, but like
I'm sure
it's
he
like
has.
it's a big shift. And I think, you know, I was able to be really honest about that and like communicate through all of that. So I think it was like a good learning experience, and just like being vulnerable with that and like sharing that was like a challenge for me. And then like actually allowing him to do things for me. And another like part, or another sort of piece that I think came up in, I think, the container, and like things that I have been working on, I think even before the container, is like the idea of like, you know, feminine, masculine, and like polarity, and like what you kind of need in a relationship for it to flourish. And I think even being able to have those conversations about my relationship with my partner, and like without judgment, and like just with like a level of like respect and observation about like how is I maybe contributing to, like, am I letting him lead, am I able to receive, and like how does that feel for him, how does that feel for me, and like actually having that conversation. I don't think I've ever had with a partner before, and I probably haven't had it with like a lot of people in my life, but it is so powerful. And every time I've had it since, like that type of conversation with anybody, like it deeply resonates, right? But like we don't talk about that. I
We
mean, at
don't
least I
talk
don't
about
see a
all the
lot.
things that actually create intimacy in our
Yeah.
connections. This is
Yeah.
so beautiful. And like my heart just feels so open. And again, it's so cool because I think this is really interesting in the dating and partnership space. Is the first place people will go is to like rules. What should I
Mm-hmm.
say? What should I not say? What should I do? What should I not do? And yeah, if you aren't willing to look at your things and you're just kind of like flying by the seat of your pants and you're taking all your control dynamics into dating, like you might need some rules to like chill the hell out. However, there's this other way that I feel is so much more like lasting, that is like, okay, but if we also just like focus on our feminine energy, our embodiment, right, etc., and come that deep, come back to self and reclamation of our own feminine power and how we show up, you stop worrying about those things. And then you just have this experience of like naturally creating intimacy and polarity rather than having to be like, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Because that way of moving through is really tiring.
It's exhausting, and
It's
quite,
awful.
I think when we have to like obsess about it that much, like either we need to do work on ourselves, or like it's maybe not the right relationship.
And
Like,
it's probably both.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, quite frankly, yeah. It's like it doesn't, like I'm not gonna say like, oh, relationships are like necessarily always easy, and if they're hard sometimes it means anything, but that like they
Yeah.
can, you know, being human is hard sometimes. But like, you know, it shouldn't feel like a battle. It shouldn't, there should be some level of ease. And I feel like should is a tricky word, but like it's possible where it can be easy. It can take work and be exhausting sometimes, but like you're, you know, I think the biggest thing the last 5 months, Jocelyn, has been is like, or for however long, like, is just like my nervous system.
Yay.
You know what I'm saying? It's like there's just this steadiness
Yes.
that in my relationship, in my business, and how I'm moving day to day, that does not feel like this nervous system, or this like roller coaster on my nervous system.
This is literally the
Um,
best news I've heard all day. I mean,
yeah,
this
I
is
think it's
so,
big.
it's enormous. we cannot, like, when we are running around with like this stress, and I've been there, I've been like level 10 stress case in my life for years. It's not a fucking vibe. And it's like, we can't receive what our nervous system cannot approve, like cannot like get on board with, right?
Right. And I think we become addicted to it when we're in that, like when we're in that like state where it's like we're just running around, like we're in this like almost fight or flight or free, like this like really intense like energy space. Like that is what almost becomes normal, right? And so like when something's good, we're like, well, what's wrong about it? Like we can't just like chill out and receive. That just becomes the normal. And like it's hard for you to like even sit still with yourself, you know? It's like addicting. And I don't miss it.
I don't miss it either. And I'm just so, it like literally brings my heart so much joy that that's been your felt experience. And obviously, I know that you're someone who's doing a lot of personal work, like everyone that I attract.
Yeah.
But I also just love, like, okay, so, well, we're still in month 4, like our 5th month, we end mid-September, right? And so
Yeah.
we're about like almost there, a few weeks from there. But like, it's really cool to me too, because adding this right on top of everything you've already done, just kind of like in your life and the decisions you've made and the choices you've made and the commitment you've made to yourself, and you've just been backing yourself and doing the things, is like, in the grand scheme of things, this was such a small amount of time to be like, Jocelyn, my nervous system's actually chill and I can receive. It's not even been half a year.
Yeah. No. No. And I think that like
Considering how we will go like jump from here to here and like years and years and years trying to get to these places. And something I've just seen across like you and the other women who I've interviewed or have been interviewing is they're just like, oh yeah, like it just happens. And
yeah.
it's even like we go in being like, this is how you regulate your nervous system. You know what I mean? Like that's not how it goes down.
Yeah. I think there is this energetic choice, you know, and obviously like backed up by aligned action, but like it doesn't have to be like this big
Dramatic,
thing, right? It does not have to be dramatic. You don't have to do anything. It's just like, what do I want? Am I ready to like shift and like evolve and receive? And like, are we just like open, you know? And we like ready to let go of old stories. And that's a big one that keeps coming back to me.
That's what I was getting ready to say as I was hearing you speak, is so much of the work allowed you to release the stories where you're almost like, wait, I can't even remember like what was going on before. You know, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, oh, this is just like how it is. What else would I be doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I cannot imagine going back.
No, thank you. Okay, so that's really beautiful. Is there anything else that you would add that I maybe missed or don't know about in terms of like how you felt most impacted by the container, just like receiving from all of our guest experts, the sisterhood, anything that really like sticks out to you that you want to share?
I think that one thing I would just kind of point out, or that's been important for me, is I think there's a lot of spaces where we do healing work or trauma work, or you know, business, like work on our business or wherever, right? And I think sometimes those spaces can feel a little isolating, right? Like, or maybe you're working with a therapist, or maybe it's a small group of people, but often it can be more solitary. And I think especially when it comes to anything remotely witchy, that can feel like it's not, I think it's way more mainstream than it was when I was growing up, because I was exposed to some of it when I was growing up. And I was really like, I always really rejected it because I could tell it was like not accepted by everybody, you know? And so I think there's two things that this like mastermind has really done. Is like, one is really bring these people together that are wanting to create a better life, or like a bigger life for themselves. And like it allows each of us to be more expanded, to have that sisterhood is like really big. And I think there's not a lot of spaces where that exists. At least, I mean, I know there are now, and like there are, but I think if that's not something you've exposed, like not a lot of people are exposed to that, at least like
No,
for
I
me, it's
agree with
new,
you.
you
And I've
know?
actually been coached a lot. And one of the reasons I created the container the way that I did is because even inside containers, most of them, honestly, pretty much all of them were missing that level of intimacy. Like, even if there was like the right information or like
Right.
the right things and like tools, like I have never been in something that feels as intimate to me as FMM does.
Yeah.
And so
And I
I
think like
almost created what I actually would have wanted.
wanted for
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah, that's so smart. Because I think like, yeah, a lot of this work is individual, but like we are like we've evolved as like groups of people, right? Like as tribes, right? So like there is a lot of power in that community. And I think seeing other people step up for themselves is like very expansive.
Yeah.
And even if something's not, I'm not in the same situation as someone else in the cohort, I can still learn so much just from that exchange. And then I think when it comes to like any of the stuff that we do, like someone that I actually didn't grow up mainstream at all, but I think I've just worked in such like a mainstream world. Um, I think for me, it was like almost an invitation to like return back to those roots and like really tap into like the power of like the universe and the power like within myself, if that makes sense. Where I don't think there's a lot of spaces in my life where I would have had such invitation and encouragement to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. It's exactly how I felt. It's like why I did this. Cause I also know this
Yeah.
is like also so much of where our joy is going to come from. And there's nowhere to like, no one teaches this to you. And
No.
like I said, the intimacy is important too, because also we really get into everything. Like there aren't topics that we don't talk about. And so you're also witnessing other women's like deepest areas of vulnerability too.
Absolutely. And I don't think that people always have, the support system, whether it's family or
I
close
never felt like I
friends,
had anywhere to
right?
go with those things.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
truly.
And so like the crazy thing is like we are so impacted by those people around us, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not surrounded by people that can support you in those ways, like it's likely that that could affect like your ability to grow in that way,
Mhm.
I don't want to put any like this isn't possible statements out there, but like we can go so much further when we are expanded and encouraged. Like it's pretty simple. um and I know like that's something that I certainly needed. And I think it's like that expansion and that awareness and that like almost permission to just be like, oh no, this is okay. Like you can do this. And not feel so isolated, because we're all, I think in this group, like we're all making moves in our life, whether it's in our relationships or business or just how we move through it, right? So to just be surrounded by people that are like also going down that path, like that's really, really powerful.
I feel so too. And I'm so grateful that you had that experience. Because I remember Andrea said, like, it's interesting being in a space. She was like, where there's this energy of like safety and acceleration, like at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought what you're saying is also reminding me of that. So that's so beautiful. So what would you say to anyone who is on the fence about joining, considering it, joining the fall winter round, which is going to be the last time that doors open this year, which is kind of crazy, but I'm also very excited.
Yeah. I mean, I think like if there's anyone out there that's listening and this is resonating with you, or any of your messaging is resonating with any Jocelyn's messaging is resonating, like just tune into like your gut, like your heart, like what feels good to you. You know what I mean? I think there could be like a little bit of fear that could come up around, making that leap for sure. But I think if like if it's something that you're gravitating towards, if you need that kind of support and um an expansion and like are ready to make a shift and like really reset, I think this is a really beautiful container and it's very unique. But yeah, I mean, I think people should just like tune into what's inside. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's what this container is all about, is like tuning into like what is your gut telling you. And if this doesn't feel right, like you'll know it, right? Like don't force it. But if it's feeling
Totally.
right, like just trust it. and just like, I
Desire-led
think,
living, baby, for the win. I
yeah.
think we just get confused because we'll feel the desire and then we'll layer over our fear and be like, oh, that must be my intuition. I'm like, no. Your intuition was how you felt in that first moment before all the like stories kicked in.
Yeah.
But this is one of those experiences. Like, if you want this level of depth and this level of like growth and this level of receiving, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like,
Yeah.
we're going to be, this is the most intimate way to work with me. We're in this for 5 months together. This isn't like a, oh, maybe I'm kind of interested. It's like, you want this, right? That's who this
Yeah.
is for.
Absolutely. And I think, um, it's, it's, I don't know. It's like, I followed you for quite some time before, I started working with you, but I knew that like there was something there that I needed to explore. So I don't even think I knew much about the program, and I just signed up because it's just about trusting your gut, you know?
I mean,
Um,
we'd never spoken at all.
no,
And you were just like, Cameron, I was like, hi, babe. I know. But I love that. Obviously, this is why
yeah.
we have all the free content. So
And I
you guys
think this is
can
the other thing. I don't know if I've told you this. Like, I would say in the past, I'd listened to you and I was like definitely activated by certain things here and there. But then I would listen to like a live you did, like you were just talking. I'm like, I feel so motivated now. Like it was very motivating, right? So like if someone's listening and you're listening to Jocelyn and her stuff is like, how does her content, like how does it sit in your body? If it is inspiring, it's expansive, if it's triggering, like look at that. And maybe it's not the right fit, but like if there's like, if you feel that like momentum growing inside of you, like listen to it, you know? And I think that's what I did. Like I knew it. So
I
yeah,
mean, and most of my clients have said that like at some stages they were a little triggered by me. I mean, I think this is normal.
it's totally normal because it's like there's something there. And I know I identified with you. Like there's a lot of things that I was just like, oh yeah, like just really resonated. But I always went back to like, and I always went back to like when I did watch something, like I could tell how it shifted my energy around things that I was going
Yeah.
through or decisions I was making. And I was like, okay, like I am more motivated by listening to this person that I've never met on some like Facebook, whatever, than like people in my life, right? Like, okay, so where am I gonna like where am I gonna invest my time and resources, right?
100%. I'm with
So
you. That's how I make decisions too. And it's normal. And I know we've heard this before, but literally when we're feeling those triggers, or I like to call them activations,
yeah,
it's just pointing out something that like we get to have that we haven't expanded into yet. So it feels a little like big, right? But it's like if it wasn't something that you desired, your energy system wouldn't even notice it, you know?
absolutely. Absolutely. It's 100%. And like that was very clear to me. And I even think like
And
even
especially when it's coming with also an expansion. Like there was a part
yes,
that felt good too.
100%. And it was like I think I would encourage anyone listening to just be curious about that. Like just question like what's coming up, you know? How does it make you feel? Because the answers are all there, you know?
I love it. Now you're like, Miss, tune into your intuition.
It's a lot easier.
It's way easier. Okay, well, could you tell us a little bit more too about your business and what you're doing so that anyone who's
Yeah,
interested in a good fit for you can connect with you and the best
absolutely.
place to reach you? And obviously, I'll put your links and episode notes too.
Yeah. So I just started my business and I'm doing strategy, branding, and web design and development for basically people like founders, solopreneurs, business owners that are looking to sort of transform their idea into a reality. So it could be people that like have an idea about something and need to create it, like make it come to fruition and put it out into the world. Or it could be people that, you know, do have a business, do have a brand and are looking to up level. And so there's like a big strategy component. That's my background. And then, you know, branding, web design, development, all of that good stuff. And then obviously there's like complementary services that support those efforts. But yeah, a lot of strategy, a lot of branding, web design. Some clients need it all. Some clients, it's like a little bit more a la carte. But I think, you know, the biggest thing, and this came through in working together with you, is I think I felt so much pressure to be like, oh, I'm going to only serve this this vertical or these types of people. And that's just really not me. Like, I'm really curious about learning and working in all sorts of industries. And I think for me, it's about the people. It's about like what lights me up, and it's like the people and their product and how what they bring to the table and like how excited they are. So for me, that's been like, again, a guiding post of what I want to work with in terms of my clients who I want to work with, versus like I'm only going to do e-commerce or, you know, like whatever it is more aligning to the people and the projects. So that's been really exciting, because for me, it's like, I'm, especially in human design, it's like, does it light me up? Then like, good, we're good to go. And so, yeah, that's sort of where I'm at right now. And yeah, people can find
Beautiful.
me.
I really resonate with that too, because one of the reasons I even, for example, love FMM is you don't need to have a business. It doesn't matter, right? Like, you're just a woman moving through the world. And I actually, like, my soul feels the most fulfilled. The more women that I can help who I feel soul alignment with, who feel soul alignment with me, the more fulfilled I feel in my business. And I remember when we would have that like niching conversation, I'd be like, babe, my niche is like spiritual or spiritually curious women who want more.
Yeah.
That's all that's happening here. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, if it
Mm-hmm.
feels good, it's good.
Yeah. And I think that's what, like, when I align with my clients, it's like, it literally feels like this physical expansion. I am so excited to work with them. I will literally wake up in the middle of the night with ideas about what they could do. Like, it's like a full on, and that's why I like hit these different areas, is because for me, it's rarely looking at anything in isolation, right? Because like, if something's happening here, it's showing up somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I like a much more holistic like approach to things, which is like essentially a version of what you do in FMM. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just looking at one area of your life, because what's going on here is it's going to affect everything else. So that's what excites me, is like that intersection between like business, psychology, creativity, technology, like, and like who we're showing up as every day. What does that look like? Just like combining all of that and making sure it's in alignment and feels good.
I
That's where I
love
am.
that, because you're also treating people. And I think this is important. This is kind of like what can sometimes be missing, is like treating people as whole people. Like, they're not
Mm-hmm.
just their business, right? Or the business isn't just this one little area. The business is not just strategy. Like, there's so, you know, I always talk about business being so multidimensional in terms of like the business itself
Mm-hmm.
and us, and then like how we
Mm-hmm.
connect. And I really feel like you serve people really deeply when you're doing what you're doing, which is
Mm-hmm.
like honoring our multidimensionality, and stop no longer trying to put people like in these weird little boxes that make us all miserable and they don't work.
It doesn't work, and people don't feel good, right? Because then they're just like pointing at this one thing they changed, being like, well, why don't I feel different? Right? It's like, they're going to get the same amount of results, which is like kind of likely going to be lackluster. I don't know. It's like, there needs to be, it's not just like about like changing one thing. There's also this like energetic shift that needs to happen in support of that. It's
1000%.
so multidimensional. So
And this
that's
is
what I'm
also
here for.
like, it's really beautiful for your clients. I feel the exact same way about business. And then also, it's so much more nourishing for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I can give like, for me, it gives me permission, it allows me to actually like serve them, and in all of my gifts. Because I've never been someone that's been like, I'm just going to do this one thing in the corner. Like, no, I'm really showing up in all these different ways and curious about all these different areas of how we show up in business or in whatever, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it literally doesn't feel good when I only can help people like in this tiny way, because like it feels like something's bursting out of me, right? Like, in a selfish way, it's like I'm not able to fully serve them.
I feel the same. And you're just showing up as all of you now in your whole
Yeah.
life. That's why it feels good.
Yeah, it feels really good, and it's been a while. It's been wild to like really to make that shift, like after so long of thinking about it and like really segmenting parts of my life. It feels really good to just sort of come home, you know, in that way, and show up in all of me. So thanks for being part of it.
Thank you for trusting me. This is all so beautiful. I really love what I do for a living.
Me too. Thank you. We're lucky to have you.
Thank you. And I'm so excited to see where you go from here. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, ladies. For those of you who are live, for everyone who's live or listening, because this is going to be on the podcast as well. Feminine Magic and Money is currently open on early bird. So you can receive 555 off pay in full, the Yummy Pay in Full bonuses, or on the extended payment plan with early bird, as long as you join before, when it was the early bird closing, Friday, September 3rd. So the link is in our live. It is in episode notes. It's on my website. You can DM me if you have any questions. And thank you, Chloe. I love you so much. And it's just been like such a pleasure to work with you. And I really appreciate you sharing your story.
You too. Thanks, dear.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Mwah.